I cannot tell you how certain I was that I had passed that test. I was so certain. I smashed that in my mind, but clearly not, because your girl failed her driving test. Me. Hi, it's me. So I thought I would sit down and give you guys a story time surrounding me failing my driving test. Given 50% of people fail the first time, I might be able to save you from making the mistakes I did. I am convinced that it is one big scam, one big money making scam, and the system is so corrupt. Oh my god, wait until I tell you. So very quickly, I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory. So when I was 18 or 19, I was in a really bad car accident, and it genuinely put the fear of God into me. Like, I was so terrified at the thought of learning to drive, so I just kept putting it off, and about 2 years ago I genuinely thought I would never learn how to drive because I was so full of fear and anxiety at the thought of being behind a steering wheel. But last August I decided to bite the bullet and I did my theory test, passed my theory test, and then I got into my driving lessons. So from September to January I did the 12 driving lessons that you have to do in Ireland before you can apply for your driving test. So at the very end of January this year I applied for my driving test, and I was told it'd be like a 12-week wait, so about 3 months. It ended up being a 4-month wait, and I didn't get an email to book my driving test until the very end of May. I went on about 4 or 5 days in a row and nothing suitable was coming up, and then I went on like the 6th day and there was a driving test for the 11th of June at 10:05 a.m. and I was like, oh my god, this is meant to be, because 11 is my lucky number. So I was like, all the stars have aligned, I'm going to pass this test. Like, as soon as I got the date for the 11th of June, I just felt really confident. Do you know when you just feel like things are lining up for you? So I was like, right, I've got this. Between January and getting my test date at the end of May, you know, I did a bunch more driving lessons in between. So I have had quite a number of lessons done at this point, and I had some really good lessons where I was driving so well. So the morning of my driving test, I had a driving lesson booked for the hour before my driving test. So from 9 to 10 I had a lesson, and then my test was at 10:05. My instructor recommended, you know, do a lesson before the test because it will be the most important lesson you ever do. Get comfortable behind the wheel, you know, just kind of brush up and have everything fresh in your mind. So I set off to do my driving lesson before the test, and I was a bag of nerves, like an actual bag of nerves. During my driving lesson I did so many things wrong because I was so nervous, but come to the end of my lesson I was feeling really confident and really comfortable behind the wheel. You know, I had done my reverse around the corner really well, I had done my 360 turn really well, just everything was going really well come the end of my driving lesson. So when my lesson was over, we parked up behind the driving test centre, and I had about, you know, 10 minutes to spare at this point. And before I had my driving test, I'd actually gone on Instagram and asked you guys, you know, was there any advice you had, you know, and you think I should know before doing my driving test? And, you know, people said wear your hair in a ponytail, you know, so they can see you turning your head. You know, you have to do the real dramatic twists and turns. So I had my hair in a pony. So many people said to take 2 paracetamol and a banana before your test, that it was good luck. And beggars can't be choosers. Like, I was willing to try anything to pass this test. So you best believe I had taken my 2 paracetamol and I had my banana with me. So I had 10 minutes, so, you know, I was heading into the test centre and I was like, okay, I'm just going to eat my banana now. So I was walking into the test centre, I had half of my banana eaten, I looked at the time, I was like, right, I've got 5 minutes, I'll just sit down and wait for her to call me and finish the rest of my banana. I walked into the test centre and we're going to call this woman Julie, and she was stood there and she goes, Jessica Brennan. And I was like, hi, I was like, yeah, that's me. And first of all, I don't know why, but it didn't even register that she was my driving tester. I just thought maybe she was the woman who was going to bring me to the room where the driving tester was, but no, this was the driving tester. She wouldn't as much as crack a smile at me. She looked me up and down and she went, do you want to finish that banana? And I went, yeah, is that okay? Because, you know, I was like, right, I've got 5 minutes, and I was just kind of like, oh, what's going on here? So I was like, yeah, is that okay? She just looked at me, she walked into the room, stood behind her chair. I walked into the room, went to take my seat, and she looked at me again and she said, do you want to finish that banana? And I was getting a little bit confused at this stage because I was like, I just said, yeah, if that's okay, you know, I'll just finish the last 2 bites of my banana. So I was like, yeah, is that okay? She then proceeds to sit down, look at me again and says, do you want to finish that banana? and points to the bin and says, there's a bin right there if you want. Julie wasn't asking if I wanted to finish my banana. Julie was telling me I was finished my banana. So obviously I had put 2 and 2 together at this point. I got up, I put the banana in the bin, and it just had me thrown straight away. I was like, Julie, you're really killing my vibe. Like, obviously you didn't say that, but I was thinking in my head, you are killing my vibe, girl. I came in here confident, I came in here ready. And this is just not off to a very good start here, is it? Like, god damn, this banana was meant to be my good luck, and this banana seems to have just thrown everything off course. So I was just so scrambled in my head then, because I was just like, what's going on? I was still finished chewing what was in my mouth, and she starts like pointing to the signs. Do you know the way at the start of your test you have to like answer some of the questions about the road markings? There was nothing going through my head at this point because I just felt so scrambled at the interaction that had just happened. So I knew I had gotten a couple of them wrong, but you know, my driving instructor told me even if you get all the show and tell questions wrong, you cannot fail, you know, because you need to get a grade 3 mark to fail, and that's only like a grade 1 mark even if you get them all wrong. So I was just like in my head, I was like, look, Jessica, just pull yourself together. You know, the driving is the most important thing, you know, let's ace this. You know, let's show Julie that this girl actually can drive. Banana aside. Oh my god. So we toddle on out to the car, get into the car, and off we set. Let's just say the energy was feeling a little bit tense. I just felt like from the second Julie lay her eyes on me, she did not like me. Like, you know when someone looks you up and down and you're like, oh, she doesn't like me. Like, she's just really judging me right here, right now. I was just getting that vibe off her that she didn't like me, and I was being really friendly, you know. So off we go, you know, things are going really well, and straight away we passed through 2 roundabouts, and on the second roundabout she tells me to take the first left, okay? And this first left brings you down a street that's then going out onto the main road, and there's cars parked on your left and your right, so it's an extremely blind spot. So it's one of them places where you kind of have to keep edging out, you know, that kind of a way. So I was doing that, and you know, it's quite a busy road, cars up and down, so like it took a couple of minutes before I got a spot to get out, but you know, I handled the situation really well, if I do say so myself. So off we go. So once I had pulled out and everything went really well and I was on the main street, do you want to know what she did? She brought me all around the town and brought me back to that roundabout and brought me back to the same street, to the same blind spot, because she clearly wasn't happy that I did it really well. And at this point I was like, okay, you're trying to fail me. Like, you're looking for a reason to fail me because there are 100 roads in this town you could bring me on. Why bring me down here again? Like, it makes no sense. I've hardly ever even driven down this road in my lesson because it's such a strange road to go on. So I was like, okay. I was like, Jessica, come on, you've got this. Like, show her what you're made of. So again, I handled that junction really well. So then we were driving on a road and she was like, go left at the end of the road and continue going straight. Okay, so I went left at the end of the road, and to my right there's like a mini roundabout, right? But it's like a mini roundabout and then a road coming down to where I was. So when I turned left and I was on the straight, I just kind of forgot like her directions. You know, she had told me at the start of the test that, you know, if you're ever unsure of the directions I give you, just ask me. So I stopped there for a couple of seconds. I looked around, there was no cars, no, zilch, not one car on the road, in the vicinity, in my sight. We were clear, right? So I stopped and I said, are we going straight? And when I looked at her, she very dramatically went like this. Yeah. But bearing in mind, I had done my whole look around. I'd seen there was no cars. I was double checking the directions. I looked again and then I drove straight. Remember this. Remember this moment, okay? So then the test continues, la-di-da-di-da, we get to the reverse around the corner. Now, this is the part that I was most nervous for because obviously you can get a grade 3, you can fail your test if you don't do the reverse around the corner right. I was like, okay, you've got this, because in my driving lesson before the test, I had practiced this number of times and I was acing it, okay? I was acing it near the end. So when I tell you, I did my reverse around the corner so perfectly. I have never done it as well as I did it in my test, okay? But while I was doing my reverse around the corner, you know, I was reversing into an estate, and as I was starting my reverse around the corner, there was a car coming out of their driveway. They obviously saw that I was doing my test because, you know, the testers wear the high-vis jackets, so it's pretty obvious that it's a tester in the car. They obviously saw I was doing my test and they reversed back into the driveway because they were clearly trying to be nice and do a nice deed for the day, you know? And they had done that before I was even near the corner. Like, I was just on the straight, about to go around the corner. So they had room to, like, come out and, you know, drive out if they wanted to. They were just trying to do a nice deed, right? And I've always been told by my driving instructor, don't interact with other cars or other pedestrians. Like, just let people do what they're going to do and then react accordingly, because it can get really confusing if you're, like, waving someone on and, you know, people don't know what you mean, vice versa. So just ignore everyone, you know, technically, and just react to what they're doing. So remember this, okay? Remember this moment. Test continues. It started pissing rain in like the last 15 minutes of my test, but I could tell that where she was bringing me, because there was like 3 roundabouts, that we were heading back to the test centre, right? And I was in the car like, oh my god, I have aced this. Like, I have driven so well. I haven't done anything, like I haven't hit the curb, I haven't, you know, my reverse was perfect. I've been checking my mirrors really dramatically. I've been checking my blind spot. Like, I was like, I've stopped for 3 seconds at each stop sign. I was like, I've aced this. Like, I was so confident that I had passed. There was not a doubt in my mind that I had not passed this test. So we pull up to the driving test centre, park up the car. She was like, I'll meet you inside. I was like, okay. And she walked ahead of me. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I did it. Like, in my head, I was like, woo. Oh my god, you actually could write this. So toddle on into the driving test centre, and she's there. She hadn't even sat down. This woman was still stood behind her chair. She was gagging from the minute she saw me. I honestly, to tell me I failed that test. So walked in. I didn't even get to sit down yet either. She was like, I'm afraid it's not good news today, Jessica. You have failed. And I was just like, is this a sick joke? Obviously I didn't say that, but I was like, is this actually a sick joke? Like, somebody's having me on here, like, you're gonna go, haha, I'm only joking, JK. But no, she wasn't joking. So she failed me because I didn't yield. Remember that road where I was telling you about, where there was no cars in the vicinity? There was a little mini roundabout up to my right, and I double checked the directions. You know, remember that spot? She said because I didn't yield that I failed, even though there was no cars, and I had yielded technically because I had stopped for like 3 seconds to double check the direction, and then I checked again, there was no cars coming, no car in sight again, not one car on the road, and I drove off. So that was an instant fail. That was a grade 3. How? Since when? I've never heard of such a thing in my life. Crazy. Okay, the second thing she failed me for, that was a grade 3. Remember my reverse around the corner? Because I didn't let them people go, I got a grade 3. Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? Like, what did you want me to do? Go, wait a second, Julie. I'm just gonna hop out the car, jump out the car, run over to the driveway. No, you're okay. You can go. Like, don't worry about it. What was I meant to do? They literally couldn't even see me. When they started to reverse back in their driveway, I was still facing that way, and they were over here. Like, I couldn't even make eye contact with them. So I was like, this is actually insanity. So they were the 2 reasons I got grade 3 marks. Instant fails. And it's so funny, I actually remember on the yielding situation, I remember her on her iPad, like, writing something down, probably like, haha, got her now, hee hee, haha. Oh no, I actually have never been so upset. I think what annoyed me the most was that when she, you know, was explaining why I failed, she then said, I'm very positive that your next result will be a very different one. I felt like saying, you knew I should have passed that. Oh, my eyes just instantly started welling up. Like, she kept talking, but like everyone was just going over my head at that point. I was like, I have heard enough. So she was like, there's a bathroom over there if you want to go and gather yourself. So I got up out of the chair and to try and open the door. The fucking door was on the latch. Like, it was locked. I couldn't open it. It was given... Have you seen that TikTok trend where it's like when you're stuck in a room with your best friend's type and you're like trying to get out the door and the door's not opening? That's very much what it was giving. I was like, let me out. tears streaming down my face. She came over, took it off the latch. I was like, thank you very much. I was like, thank you. You know, I was obviously still being very friendly. And then I went out to the car and I waited for my driving instructor to come back because I was using his car for the test. And yeah, I told him what happened and he was like, oh my God. He was like, you were so close to passing. Like, I was so close to passing. Like, even then, you know, after you do your test, you get an email with your score sheet, right? And if she had put them 2 marks, what she put as a grade 3, as a grade 2, I would have passed. I would have passed. When I tell you, I sobbed the whole drive home. I sobbed. I came home. I crawled into bed. I was like, I give up. I was so dramatic, to be fair, but it seems like anyone who fails their driving test seems to take a similar, you know, course of action. It was just so disheartening because, like, I wouldn't mind if I ran a red light or I ran a stop sign or I did something that deserved a fail, but I didn't even know you could get grade 3 marks for them 2 things that she gave me grade 3 marks for. You know, like, I was under the illusion it was like, you know, pulling out in front of someone dangerously on a roundabout or hitting the curb or like that, not stopping at a stop sign or all these things that, you know, it's like, okay, fair enough, I deserved it, but I didn't deserve it. And I know so many people probably feel that way, but like, I drove so well. And I think the most frustrating part is that, you know, I've paid for and I'm on the waiting list for my next driving test, but I have to wait 3 to 5 weeks before I can get an email to then book my next driving test. So it just means that it's going to be another month or 5 weeks until I get a date for my driving test. And it's just like, you know, prolonging it. And it's obviously an extra cost because, like, the driving test is €85. To use my instructor's car is €100, and then it's €50 for the lesson before the test. So it's €235 essentially just for me to do my driving test again. And, you know, I could have put that money towards insurance or I could have put that money towards getting a car. And I was just like, this is actually a joke. Like, I was just like, nah, like, I genuinely feel like they have to fail so many people so that they can keep making so much money, you know, because I don't know, I just also feel like she took an awful disliking to me from get-go, and I swear to God if I get her again, I swear to God, because I'm just certain she'd like me. Like, that's how I felt, you know, when you get that vibe where it's like, you really don't like me and I don't know why, but you don't. And look, come on, Julie, like, we can be friends, like, we don't gotta be besties, but we can get on, you know. I can laugh about it now, but no, like, that day I failed, I was not okay. Like, I was in a hole. I was like, I've had enough, I'm never gonna drive, I'm never gonna get my license, yada yada yada, drama queen. I just felt so disheartened because I was like, the 2 things that she failed me for are things that, you know, if you used your brain, like, if she used her brain, she'd be like, okay, that's what anybody on the road is going to do. Like, you know, there was no cars. I had stopped because I was double checking that you wanted me to go straight. And then I can't control what another car decides to do. You know, people like to be nice on the road sometimes. A lot of the time they're not. A lot of the time they're very angry. But sometimes you come across an angel like this person and they're trying to do a good deed of the day. And you can't, you know, you just got to let them do their good deed and carry on. But I just felt like it was such an unfair marking. And then as well, like, when I was doing my driving lesson before the test, my driving instructor was telling me how his son had just passed his test the week before, and his son is 17. And he was saying how his son was saying during his test, he had a man driving instructor, and the man was just like looking out the windows and like not really paying that much attention. And his son was like, hello, will you look at me? You know, because I'm checking my mirrors. Like, can you make sure that I'm, you know, doing the thing? And he just seemed really laid back. And I just felt like, had I have got that man, because it was in the same driving test centre, like there was 2 testers, had I have got that man, I just can't see him giving me a grade 3 for them 2 things. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he would have used his brain, whereas I just feel like this woman had it out for me, and I just feel like that made it feel so much worse, because I was like, that was just an unfair marking. So there we go. That's the story around me failing my driving test on the 11th of June. I'm over it now. I am over it now. I can laugh about it, but my God, I was not laughing for the first 2 days. I would say though, if you have a driving test coming up, like do your driving lesson before. Like, oh my God, that was the best lesson I ever did, because it just refreshes everything in your memory. You know, it's better to make your mistakes during your driving lesson compared to doing it during the driving test. You know, it just gets you comfortable behind the wheel, doing an hour driving before. And yeah, it just really helped me get rid of a lot of my nerves, you know. But my God, I'm not looking forward to my next test, and I really hope and pray to God that I don't have to come into contact with Julie again, because well, I would love to hear down below your experience with your first driving test. Did you pass? Did you fail? If you did fail, what did they fail you on? Did you feel like it was fair or unfair? How many times did it take you to pass? Because yeah, I don't think any of my friends passed the first time. It's such a frustrating process though. Oh my goodness. So yeah, hopefully we'll get my date. I'm hoping sooner rather than later. I'm hoping I get it in 3 weeks rather than in 5 weeks. And, you know, I'm going to do a couple more lessons in between now and then as well. And then please light a candle and cross your fingers and your toes for me that I pass next time, because oh my goodness, I'm just dying to get on the road now. I'm so dying. And like my driving instructor said as well in the lesson before, you know, I was really nervous. He was like, Jessica, he's like, you're ready for this. He was like, you know, I've had to have a conversation with a few people, you know, saying you're not ready for your driving test, you know, you need to do more lessons, yada yada. He's like, you're ready for this, like you're able to drive, you know. I wouldn't be giving you my car to do the test if you weren't able to drive. And like I feel like that did give me a bit of confidence as well. And then Julie just had to go and ruin it all for me, like what the fuck. So yeah, I really hope this maybe made you feel a little bit better about yourself, or maybe you picked up something that, you know, you can apply if you have your driving test coming up. And be aware to yield even if there's no cars, and if there's somebody on the road like that when you're reversing, make sure you let them go. Oh my God. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I love you all so very much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all super duper soon. Bye bye friends.